why she comes back when you pull away. Here's a cold, hard truth. Chasing her is the fastest way to lose her. Yet stepping back is often the key to pulling her closer. It sounds counterintuitive, doesn't it? You've been told to give her the world, to always be there, to prove your worth at every opportunity. But let's face it, when was the last time that worked? When you're too available, she gets comfortable, and comfort breeds complacency. The moment you create distance, something flips in her mind, and suddenly, you're all she can think about. This isn't about games or manipulation, it's about human psychology. People crave what they can't have, and women are no exception. When you stop giving her all your time and energy, it triggers a shift. She starts wondering where you went, why your attention is missing, and most importantly, whether she's losing you. That doubt, that tiny spark of uncertainty, is often what brings her back. But here's where it gets controversial. Many men make the mistake of trying too hard to keep her interested. They text her constantly, rearrange their lives to accommodate her, and practically beg for validation. This isn't just unattractive, it's repelling. Women don't want a man who revolves around their every whim. They want someone who has his own life, his own purpose, and his own standards. When you stop chasing and let her feel the weight of your absence, she realizes what she's missing. And yes, distance doesn't always guarantee she'll come running back, but it shifts the power dynamic in your favor. It forces her to evaluate her feelings for you. Is she willing to lose you, or is she ready to fight to keep you in her life? Here's the truth most men don't want to hear. Giving her distance isn't about punishing her. It's about respecting yourself. When you know your worth and refuse to chase someone who's taking you for granted, you set a standard. And trust me, that standard is magnetic. Women are drawn to men who know their value and refuse to compromise it. Are you ready to understand why distance works and how it changes everything? Let's dive in. 1. She feels the void you left. When you distance yourself from a woman, something profound happens. She begins to feel the void you left. This isn't just about your physical absence, it's the lack of your attention, energy, and presence that stirs something deep within her. Women often thrive on emotional connection, whether they acknowledge it or not. When you step back, it's like pulling a thread from a tightly woven fabric. Her sense of stability starts to unravel. Suddenly, the things she took for granted, your calls, your attention, your presence, become glaringly absent, leaving her to face the emotional emptiness head-on. This void triggers reflection. She starts replaying moments in her mind, analyzing your interactions, and questioning her role in the dynamic. The human mind is wired to notice loss more intensely than gain, and your absence amplifies your presence in her thoughts. The void doesn't just make her miss you, it makes her realize how integral you were to her routine, her emotions, and even her self-esteem. Now, here's the kicker. This void doesn't feel like a soft nudge. It feels like a gut punch. At first, she might tell herself she's fine. She'll distract herself, scrolling through social media, hanging out with friends, or diving into work. But distraction is temporary. When the noise fades. 2. She becomes curious about you. When you step back and stop engaging with her, something interesting happens. Curiosity starts to build. Women are naturally wired to be curious. And when you stop giving her what she's used to, she starts asking herself, why is he pulling away? What's he doing? Is he seeing someone else? This curiosity turns into a subtle obsession, making her wonder about your life without her and whether you've really moved on. You see, when a woman has your full attention all the time, she gets comfortable. There's no chase, no challenge, and it can make her take you for granted. But when you give her space, you remove the certainty she once had about you. You stop responding on demand, and suddenly she can't predict your next move. This unpredictability, this mystery, is what ignites the curiosity. She might try to figure you out, asking mutual friends about you, or even stalking your social media. She'll notice the things that she once overlooked. The fact that you're not always available, not always the first one to respond, or that you seem content without her. It's like when you're playing a game, and suddenly the rules change. The intrigue grows because she no longer knows what to expect from you. Here's the thing. Curiosity is a powerful emotional trigger. It breaks the status quo and forces her to focus on you in ways she hadn't before. The space you create in her life doesn't just leave a void, it invites questions, doubts, and that nagging desire to know more about you. In relationships, people often take each other for granted, but when you stop offering everything freely, You make her wonder if she's been undervaluing you all along. She's not just curious about your actions, she's starting to question her own feelings, and that's where the real emotional shift happens. Example. Let's say you used to call her every night, checking in and chatting about everything. One day you stop. You stop initiating the conversations. At first she may think it's just a phase or that you're busy, but over time she begins to wonder what's going on. She checks her phone hoping for a message, but nothing. The silence starts to eat at her and curiosity begins to take over. She may even reach out trying to provoke a response. The longer you maintain the silence, the more curious she becomes about what's really going on in your life. 3. She feels the loss of your presence. When you stop talking to a woman, she's not just dealing with the absence of your words. She feels the emotional void that comes with it. Your presence used to be a part of her daily routine, whether it was a text message in the morning, a call to check in, or even just knowing you were there when she needed you. All that suddenly vanishes. This absence isn't just about physical space, it's emotional. She starts feeling the weight of the silence. It's almost like you've taken away the safety net she didn't even realize she had. We often don't notice how dependent we become on something or someone until it's gone. When you stop talking to her, she starts to notice how quiet life feels without you in it. It's not just missing a conversation, it's missing the feeling of security and connection that you provided. And that feeling, it doesn't just fade, it starts to weigh on her. The silence becomes a stark reminder of the emotional investment she had in the relationship. It's like a part of her life is now missing. Without your presence in her day, the emotional landscape she built around you begins to feel incomplete. This loss isn't just about communication, it's the absence of you, your energy, and everything that came with it. Here's where it gets interesting. This loss can trigger a feeling of urgency in her. When things are too available, they can often be taken for granted. But when something important is removed, it creates a gap that forces her to pay attention. She starts to realize how much you contributed to her emotional life. She notices the small things she once overlooked, the little things that only you brought into her world. You've created a space where she begins to feel the absence, and that feeling drives her to reflect. She might have pushed you away, taken you for granted, or not appreciated your efforts enough, but now the silence is speaking louder than any words you could have said. This is when she'll start to recognize the value you brought into her life and feel the emotional loss of it. In the end, it's this feeling of loss, whether it's of your time, attention, or emotional presence, that will push her to reconsider her feelings for you. 4. She wants you to take control, don't wait for her to come back. Let's get one thing clear. If you're waiting around for her to come back to you, you're doing it all wrong. A lot of men make the mistake of sitting idly by, hoping she'll realize how much she needs them. Stop. Just stop. This is exactly what leads to you losing your power. Men, you need to wake up and realize that the moment you start waiting for her to come back to you, you've already given up control. The chase is no longer yours, it's hers. This whole waiting game is what most men do after a woman pulls away, and it's the worst possible thing you can do. The longer you wait, the more you undermine your value. You're telling her that your worth is tied to her decision to come back to you, and that's weak. It's like saying, I'm only good enough for you if you decide I am. You've got to stop devaluing yourself like that. Instead, take the reins back. Step into your own life. Find your purpose again. Whether you've been working on your career, hitting the gym, or improving your social life, focus on those things that make you a man of value. Women respect a man who doesn't need them, who can stand on his own 2 feet without her validation. But too many men get lost in the idea that they need her to complete them, and that's when they lose their edge. Here's the reality. She's waiting for you to stop waiting for her. Yes, you heard that right. When you step back and give her the space she needs, it forces her to take a step forward. Why? Because now you've shifted the power dynamic. You've shown her that you can survive without her. That's when the real change starts to happen. Men, if you've been sitting around like a passive bystander, hoping she'll come back, it's time to take action. Don't let her hold all the cards. Show her you're a man who has a life, a purpose, and the ability to move forward whether or not she's a part of it. And trust me, that's when she'll start seeing you in a new light, when she realizes you don't need her, but you want her. Step up. Don't wait around. Make her chase you for a change. 5. She feels the void without you. Don't be afraid to let her experience. Let's talk about something that most men are too afraid to admit. Women need space, and that's okay. But here's the secret. They also need to feel the void when you're not around. When you stop chasing her and pull back, she's forced to confront the reality that you're not as easily accessible as before. And that makes her realize something powerful. She's lost the comfort of your presence. The reason women often come back after you give them distance is because they feel the absence. Most men don't get this. They think that pulling back means you've lost her, but that's the biggest mistake you can make. When you give her space, you're not losing her. You're allowing her to experience a life without you. And guess what? It doesn't take long for her to realize she misses the connection. It's that simple. But here's where men go wrong. Too many of them rush in too soon, thinking they need to fill that void immediately. Don't. The moment you rush to fix things, you lose your power again. You need to let her sit with that feeling of emptiness. Let her question whether she made a mistake pulling away. Because until she feels that gap, she won't fully appreciate what she has with you. Now here's the catch. When she comes back after feeling that void, it's not because she feels sorry for you. It's because she realizes your absence was a wake-up call. She's had time to reflect and figure out what she really wants. And this time, it will be on her terms. Not because you begged her, not because you chased her, but because she's come to the conclusion that she wants to be with you. So don't be afraid to let her miss you. Men often make the mistake of fearing that space means loss, but it's the exact opposite. In fact, it's that distance that allows both of you to gain clarity. It's during the absence that she'll realize how much she values your presence. And when she returns, she'll respect you more because you didn't chase her down. She had to come to you. It's time to stop fearing the space and let her feel the consequences of losing you. That's when the game changes. When she realizes the void you left behind, she'll be more inclined to come back. But this time, it'll be on your terms, and you'll hold the power. Here's the cold truth. If you're always available, you're never going to be the man she truly desires. Men who are constantly chasing and begging for attention are the ones who lose the most. The real power lies in your absence, in your ability to walk away and let her miss you. Stop fearing the space. Let her come to you. If she doesn't, then it wasn't meant to be. I want to hear your thoughts. Comment your experiences below, and I'll reach out. Let's connect and talk about how this has worked for you.